Quick trade recap. I took two trades today, one win and one break even. And I want to get into those right quick. So going into this day, I was bearish. Now, why am I bearish? Because at market open, I recognized that we're starting to displace lower here on the 1 hour, and we are running through these bullish imbalances. There's also a 4 hour bullish imbalance here that gets ran through. So we're just order flow has shifted bearish basically on the bigger time frame. So I'm looking to see some form of sell side become the draw, whether that be this low here, or whether that mean the market fills this untapped 1 hour. Either way, I am bearish, and I also recognize that this untapped 1 hour is perfectly in line with equilibrium of this price leg. So as you can see, 50% lines up with this untapped 1 hour, and then ES has an untapped daily imbalance lower as well that I was looking for a potential move to, and that untapped daily imbalance is this low here. So the same low that's the 4 hour intermediate low on NQ is the untapped daily for value gap on ES. So I am bearish going into the morning. Now, at market open, we start to get bought up here, and we actually end up closing above this 5 minute bearish imbalance. So initially, I was looking at this to potentially hold bearish. I was looking at this bearish for value gap here. This is also 15 minute. I was looking at this to hold bearish and then look to take shorts towards this low and towards this 4 hour intermediate low. But when I see the market actually start to get bought up here, and then this 5 minute candle, as you can see, ends up closing above this. So this turns to an inverse for value gap. And at this point in time, I'm like, okay, it looks like we might want to be bullish here. And basically, I'm like, if we're bullish, where are we going to go? Like, since this fair value gap here just got ran through, and the market's looking like it might want to be bullish, where might the market want to go? And I recognize immediately, this is also, by the way, this is a bearish SMT, which is added to my bearish bias, but that's besides the point. When I see this inverse fair value gap here, I'm like, okay, although I still am bearish on the bigger time frame, I can see the potential for a move higher here, doing two things. Number one, if we were to get this move higher, we'd be sweeping out all of these internal highs. So we've got this low resistance liquidity run, and then we've also got a 1 hour bearish fair value gap that has not been mitigated. So I'm still bearish here, but I'm like, if the market wants to rebalance higher at market open, manipulate into this gap, and then look to take a short from there, then I'm open to that idea. But essentially, when I see this inverse here, I'm looking for a potential move towards all of these highs. So what is my actual entry for this long? Is once we close this 5 minute and we get this inverse, I'm looking for a rebalance lower into this level. So the market ends up giving us this rebalance into the inverse. And then notice when we get this rebalance, we also come into a 4 minute bullish imbalance. So this 4 minute fair value gap here ends up opening up. Hang on. This 4 minute here opens up bullish, and I'm looking for a rebalance to this bullish key level and also to this 5 minute inverse. So we end up getting that here. And this also ends up being a bullish SMT. So ES does not end up sweeping out the low, NQ does. So it's a very small SMT, but it is there. So we have a bullish SMT inside of a key level being this 4 minute, also this 5 minute, and this all takes place after this 5 minute fair value gap gets ran through. And I'm pretty much just looking for a move like this towards all of these low resistance highs here. So I take my long, and I take my long here, and notice we also have my entry itself was this 1 minute inverse. It's a very small fair value gap, but it is there. As you can see, we've got this 1 minute bearish fair value gap, and that inverse is where I take my long. And stop is at the low, and I just want to see a move higher. So we end up getting a little bit of a move up here, and once this high gets taken, this was basically my break-even point right here. So I go break-even here, and my fill, I did not get break-even stopped right here, which means my fill was a little bit better than I had marked out. Let's just say it was like there, because I did not, like I said, I did not get break-even on this wick. So I go break-even here once this high gets taken, and I'm looking for this untapped 1 hour for value gap here. Now this trade ends up getting break-even stopped, as you can see. So this 1 minute bullish for value gap ends up getting ran through here, and this trade gets break-even stopped. Now, keep in mind, oh, and at the same time, I forgot to add, this was a bearish SMT. So I will drag over ES right quick and show you what I mean. So remember, the only reason that I took this long right here is because this 5 minute fair value gap here got ran through. And when that got ran through, I was like, okay, since this just got ran through, if the market wants to get a move higher, I can, even though I'm still bearish, if the market wants to see this move higher, I am open to taking longs. All right, that's my thought process at this point. But what ends up happening here is, as you can see, this high on ES, which is here, obviously does not get taken out. ES comes nowhere close to taking out this high. NQ does. So I recognize this bearish SMT. I also recognize that we are now working out of a bearish 5-minute imbalance, being this one here. So bearish 5-minute fair value gap here, the market comes up and taps this. Now, when we tap this, like I said, we put in a bearish SMT, and then my first, this fair value gap here was the most important level of these two trades for me, basically, because here was my thought process at this moment. And let me actually go back just a little bit. So when I go break even here, when this internal high gets taken on my initial long, so this is what my trade looks like. I'm like, okay, I'm break even. If this 1-minute fair value gap wants to hold bullish, if this holds, then I expect us to see this 1-hour fair value gap. I expect the market to move higher here, running these highs, and go to this 1 hour, in which case my long will play out. But then I said to myself, however, if this 1 minute fails, then that tells me this long is now invalidated and my initial short bias is ready to play out. That is my thought process at this point. So this 1 minute fair value gap is very important to me because it's going to determine whether I stay in this long or now look to take my short that I was looking at since the market had opened. So what ends up happening? The market closes below this imbalance here, inverting it. So my stop was already at break even on the long. So this gets break even stopped around here. And I'm out of that trade, and I immediately take a short. Now, why? It was so quick that it was almost as if I was like going crazy and like revenge trading, like just immediately entering short right after I was in a long. However, why do I do this? Because this is exactly the scenario that I would be looking for if I were taking a short, which like I said, I was bearish bias going into the morning because I liked the displacement through these fair value gaps on the bigger time frame, and I recognize all of this sell side below, plus this 4-hour intermediate low here. So I was already bearish. And notice the 15-minute never ends up closing above this bearish imbalance. So this 15-minute fair value gap holds bearish this entire time, and then we get this internal SMT at the high plus a 1-minute inverse. So now I'm bearish. So I take a short here right after my long closes, and I've got my stop at the high. And where am I targeting for this short? Remember, this is the 4-minute that I used to take that entry, so we can get rid of that imbalance. But where am I targeting for this short? I'm targeting the untapped 5-minute fair value gap. So if we go to this price leg here, as you can see, this 5-minute fair value gap here was untapped, and this is where I'm targeting for this next short that I'm taking. And this trade ends up playing out beautifully. So target was there. I enter off of this 1-minute inverse, and the trade absolutely rips. I went break even at this internal low. So low gets taken. I move my stop from the high to break even, and I cash out at this 5-minute fair value gap. Now, I was thinking about, like, it's basically as soon as this 1 minute got ran, I knew that we weren't going here because there would be no reason for this to get ran and then us to get displacement if we were going to go to this untapped 1 hour. So I was extremely bearish from here, and I was thinking about holding all the way to the range low, but because it was a Monday, the two reasons that I didn't hold it this low are because it was a Monday and we were coming up on news. So notice this is it was 8:55 when I closed this position, right when the market reached this 5-minute untapped imbalance. So this was a winning trade, and then I recognized that in 5 minutes, basically, we have news. So we had 9 a.m. news, and I didn't want to hold this through 9 a.m. on a Monday, basically, because usually Mondays don't even give good setups like this. So I wasn't going to get greedy and try to hold all the way down here. But this pretty much ends up playing out, but we actually never sweep the low. So who knows? I probably would have ended up trailing my stop like to this internal high or something, which would have got stopped in profit here. But that didn't even end up happening. I ended up just taking my full position off at this 5-minute. But yeah, that's pretty much today's trades. Let me bring up the executions. So as you can see, this was that long that I took. As you can see, we had this internal bullish SMT coming from the 5-minute inverse, coming from the 4-minute bullish fair value gap. Then we have this really small 1-minute inverse, which is where I take my long, as you can see on this candle here. And then my stop is at the low, and I'm looking to go break even once this internal high gets taken. Internal high gets taken. I move my stop on the long to break even, and I'm like, okay, if this 1 minute holds, then I expect the market to go run all of this low resistance buy side and tap this 1 hour fair value gap. However, if this 1 minute fair value gap does not hold and it gets inversed, then I am now immediately switching back to my original bearish bias, and I'm looking to take a short towards this untapped 5-minute fair value gap. So as you can see, this does not hold, this ends up getting inverted, and this is what I mean when I said I immediately entered short within like maybe 15 to 20 seconds of closing the long, because this error here is where my long gets stopped at break even, and then this error here is where I take my short off the rebalance to this inverse. So this imbalance here gets inversed. We come back, we retest the inverse. I take my short. Stop is at the high. I go break even at this internal low, and I take my full position off at this 5 minute, as you can see with this here. So yeah, that was today's trades. Very nice. And once this trade plays out, I'm done for the day. Once the initial move plays out, especially on a Monday, do not try to trade, because this is what's going to happen. How many people do you think are still trading right now, just getting absolutely chopped up?